Welcome back to another episode of the Todd Durkin Impact Show. And today, buckle up. I have my general manager of Fitness Quest 10, Mr. Jeffrey Bristol, on this show. We talk about not just having athletes and executives and high performers. You talk about a game changer impact man. This guy is going to drop some bombs that's going to shock you. Today's podcast is sponsored by carnosine beta-alanine, an ingredient found in the top pre- and post-workout supplements. Along with the right training program and proper nutrition, carnosine helps build strength, endurance, and power. It works by buffering lactic acid in the muscle, which allows you to train longer and harder, plus speed recovery so you get back at it faster. Carnosine gets me dialed in for my workouts and keeps me going strong when exhaustion hits. The recommended dose is 90 grams over a 28-day period, which equates to 3.2 grams per day every day. So yes, I take it on my non-training days too. Carnosine is backed by over 55 scientific studies and contains 0 banned substances. And that's important when you're competing at the highest level like many of my athletes, or you just want to perform at your highest level also. Find carnosine in pre-workouts, post-workouts, or in standalone products at your local health food store. Look for the carnosine logo on the label to be sure you're getting the real deal. If you want the most out of your health and fitness program, choose carnosine beta-alanine. I'm confident it will help you like it helps me. To see the full list of carnosine verified brands and to purchase, visit www.team.carnosine.com. Again, that's www.team.carnosine.com and go to the Find Carnosine button in the drop-down menu. Build a better muscle with carnosine. We're back with another episode of the Impact Podcast, and I can't wait for today's episode. I know right now what you're doing. You're out, you're running right now, you're working out, or you're driving in your car. Yep. And I am so fired up because today I have a guest who I spend a lot of time with on a weekly and daily basis. Besides my family, maybe he's right there with them in about the number of hours that I get in a day. I have the one and the only Mr. Jeff Bristol on the podcast today. Jeff, what's happening?
What's up, guys?
It's great to have you
Love
here,
that
man.
intro,
Hey,
TD.
Jeff is the general manager of Fitness Quest 10. And I promised you that in the Impact Podcast, I was going to have people from all walks of life. We were going to have athletes, entrepreneurs, executives, regular Joes, Janes, grandmas, grandpas, and people I rub elbows with every day. And Jeff is one of those guys who's making an impact in our community every day. You know that 19 and a half years I have grinded in Fitness Quest 10, and this is our sanctuary, and I'm filming right now in the sanctuary. And we've got 42 teammates that on a daily basis are grinding here too. So wherever you are around the world listening in today, we are at headquarters, and this is where Jeff spends a lot of his time as well. And Jeff, today I want to really talk to you about your path and what led you to GM, right?
Yep.
So quick 2-minute CNN version of Jeff Bristol and how the heck you got to where you are today.
Amen. Awesome. Love that intro, TD, and honored to be on this podcast today. But GM of Fitness Quest 10 today, and, I grew up here in Southern California in Temecula. I was the oldest of 3, kind of like you guys. You got the 3. I was the oldest. And high school wrestler, college wrestler. I was an athlete my whole life and went on to college to wrestle in college.
Where was that?
UC Davis.
Mm-hmm.
So I went on to wrestle Division I scholarship. I had the academics, the athletics, the family, the education, everything going. And, had a good college career, but during my high school and college careers, I liked to party a lot, and some of my lifestyles in high school and college caught up with me post-college, and spent most of my 20s battling a major battle with addiction.
Alcohol, drugs, all of it?
All of it, but mainly drugs. Yeah. And so my battle with addiction consumed most of my 20s. That time in life where a lot of my friends from college were creating, starting their career, launching their careers, starting families, doing all this, doing all that. I was in and out of rehab and jail for majority of my 20s. And then through a couple shifts and changes, and, I was 28, 29 years old, I moved to San Diego, literally stumbled upon Fitness Quest 10. And we'll get on. We'll touch on that later. But
Yes,
I stumbled on Fitness Quest 10, kind of like my my wife Sam kind of came into my life right when I needed her. So did Fitness Quest 10. It was kind of like, pieces of the puzzle that were helping me get back on track. And then, man, ever since then, it's been quite a ride, So I've been here at Fitness Quest 10 8 years. Started out as a front desk, answered a Craigslist ad, a posting
Craigslist,
for
baby.
a director of first impression.
Yep.
And walked in, had no idea, who Todd Durkin was or what Fitness Quest 10 was. All I knew is that I lived a block away from Fitness Quest 10 when I moved to San Diego.
You couldn't drive. You had to walk everywhere.
Yeah, I had no car, no license, nothing, not a dollar in my bank account. A lot of court debts and a record that, my record was longer than my resume. My bad record.
We didn't do background checks.
Yeah,
back then.
exactly. Few. And then started here as a director of first impression, and literally that first week working here, I knew that, I had found something special. And, given the gifts and the talents that I had, that I always knew I had growing up, and, as a oldest child, as an athlete, as a kid, just I knew that this was a place that I could use some of those gifts and talents. And so that was the birth of my career here at Fitness Quest 10. And then I went on to get my training certification, become a trainer, trained for 6 years, and just grinded, really hungry, because I felt like I was behind, from a lot of people in my life that, were peers of mine. And so trained, and then, several years ago talked to you about moving up in the company to management, and moved to assistant GM for a year. And earlier this January took over as GM. Yeah. And so super
and you're doing one heck of a job, and I want to talk about that, but I don't want to I want to go back a couple years. You said you about a decade of using and abusing drugs.
Yep.
Tough time of your life.
Amen.
Do you regret now the path that you came down?
When you ask somebody that's been through some really, really tough times, there's two sides to every coin. Mm-hmm. Would I like to have some of those years back where, in the big scheme of things, certain things like, I know I underachieved in my athletic career, despite a lot of big, successes.
D1 scholarship.
I was, high school All-American, different things, Pac-10 place winner. But, the question always is what if I was all in? Mm-hmm. I was never all in on that.
You were worried about where the next party was.
Exactly. I was always worried about the next party. And, so there's that aspect, the smaller aspect. The more devastating aspect of battling addiction, how it ravages families and relationships and health, mental health, physical health. And so going through that adversity, would I like to have those years back and actually been building my career, doing this or doing that? Yes. But at the same time, the insight, the experience, the perspective, stuff that you can't learn unless you've been there, that I have today. I think, my ability to really truly understand that other person that's going, that parent that I'm talking to in my training session, what they're going through with their adolescent son who's struggling with depression and, finding their way in life. That is like, I know that myself and my family actually, because one thing that was hardest for me about those times is what I did to my parents.
Yep.
They did everything like you do for your kids. My parents did that for me.
Yep.
How I got where I got, it's almost like it's hard to understand,
It's a miracle.
Yeah.
It's a miracle you're alive.
It's a miracle I'm alive. Yeah.
The reason I asked that question is like, do you regret it? Is because I think a big reason why you are today where you're at today is because of that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I think people live in regret of the past. But, when I always talk about, live a life or telling a story about what's your story, and you're doing amazing things now. For those of you that don't know Jeff, and part of, I think, your message and your purpose in life is, though that decade that you spent battling hell and back, I believe is a big part of the perspective you have now on who you are and the thousands of people that you impact. And that's why I wanted you on the podcast is for someone that doesn't know Jeff, he's making massive, massive inwaves and impact every single day from literally 5 a.m. We'll talk about that 5 a.m. grind club that you got going on later on today, all the way till 8 o'clock at night when you're closing down the shop and you're hustling and bustling because you have a different perspective on time.
Yep.
And I think people who've been through tough times or faced adversity or are facing adversity today is you got to fight like mad to get out of that so you can get to a point where you're achieving what you want. And you have a great perspective now because of your past as well. Before I move forward on that, like what was the lowest point in this, let's say, decade of time? Was there ever like one thing that you're like, man, I got to clean this stuff up because I'm going to either die or like I'm in a bad spot? Was there a low point?
Yeah, and a lot of times people that have battled addiction or alcoholism, they talk about, hitting rock bottom. And everybody's story is different. And, rock bottom is something that people that have been through those challenges talk about. There was not one single incident that sticks out in my mind where it was like that was the moment where I saw the light and said, from this day forth, I'm going to start. It was a series of bottoms. And, the mind is incredibly powerful, both good and bad.
Right.
And, no matter how low my bottoms got, whether it was overdosing, going back to jail, sitting in a jail cell, knowing my parents are paralyzed with fear, no matter what it was, the mind, and no matter how bad I wanted to get right and get better and know that I wasn't living up to my potential, it was a series of bottoms. And they just kept getting deeper. And it is a miracle, that one of those bottoms wasn't it for me. Yeah. Because my family and I know friends, people that have lost loved ones to overdose. And it was like, that could have been me hundreds of times.
Right. As you share that, I see tears in your eyes. What is it that drives you now from that experience? Is there something now that is driving you because you think back, just a decade ago and how far you've come? What is it that fills you up with that spirit?
Well, it's almost like anything. The farther you get away from something, it's almost hard to really, really feel that same feeling that you had when you were so hopeless, so desperate. And then, flip side, newly sober, good things happening, so grateful and so excited about every win and every little mountaintop. And now, today, where I'm growing on, it's been years now. It went from, 1 year to 3 year, 5 years. Now I'm going to be sober 7 years in February. So
awesome.
It's about, for me, remembering, that feeling of being just so hopeless and desperate. And then being grateful for just.
What is that now? Like you say, remembering that. Is that something daily? I mean, are you going to meetings? Are you take 5 minutes of gratitude time at night or in the morning? You have a family now. How do you stay so poignant with the path that you came? Because if you get too high on your horse, you could slip down real quick and get slip back into a place you want to be. How do you specifically stay strong now? Like, what is it that keeps you on target?
I would say it's a series of, a culmination of things, but one of them being just my role here at Fitness Quest 10. Mm-hmm. Honestly, like, this is a community here of people serving other people, and I'm in a role where I have a lot of, like, I love that quote, or maybe it's a Bible verse, I'm not sure, but to whom much is given, much is required.
Yep.
And I know I've been given a lot, and I know I've been given a second chance. And remembering that and also that people know that I've been through real stuff, so they share real stuff with me on a regular basis.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're counseling people every day, all
totally.
the time. I love
people
it.
talk about trainers out there. All trainers know that.
Yeah.
Sometimes half of a training session is a counseling session. Well, mine is like 90% a counseling session most of the time. I'm like going, whoa, that was a lot of stuff. But I really value that role where people, doesn't matter who they are, they come to me and they talk to me about what they're going through, what their family, what their son's going through, whatever it is. And so,
it's great. I mean, before I move on from that, Proverbs, that's what it says: "To whom much is given, much is required." If someone is going through that today, or they have a son or daughter, how do you remind yourself to whom much is given, much is required when you're actually battling depression, alcoholism, drugs? Like, what is it? What is that like when you feel like you don't belong here on earth, you're not deserving of success? If there's what is it that you right now, it's easy for you to look back and say, too much is given, much is required, and you live up to that and you're obedient to that. Is there something that when you're going through that, you having walked in those shoes, speak to me about that? What is it? How do you remember that when you're in the thick of the battle?
It's almost, when you're in the thick of the battle, it's almost impossible to take a step back and have some insight on the situation. The one thing that does help you the most when you're in the thick of it is to get out there, and that's why, like, AA meetings, talking about, going and being of service, that's getting outside of yourself. So when you're in the thick of it, if you go get yourself to an AA meeting and you hear about, what somebody else is going through, you go out there and be of service to somebody else in your community, or, that is one way of, taking a step back. But it's so, when you're in the thick of it, whether it's as a parent or as an individual going through it, it's otherwise people would be.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I know in obviously working with you for 8 years, one of the things that kept you going in that time was a lot of love from your family, and your mom and dad never gave up on you. Mm-hmm. And if you're out there listening today, and maybe it's not you, maybe you're in a good space, but maybe there's a son or a daughter, mom or dad who's listening today, who's struggling, who's battling something. Hey, bottom line is most of us are battling something, right? We talk about get your mind right. The support system that you offer, the encouraging words, the praise, the acknowledgement that you give your son or your daughter, your grandma, grandpa, whoever it is, a client, a member, a customer, your words matter, your support matters. So continue to offer that support system. And if you are the one who's battling today and you're like, hey, there's whispers in there saying, I gotta deal with this, make sure your support system all around you are the people who are lifting you up and not feeding you the wrong stuff, because that could get you in a lot of trouble. So, Jeff, I just want to thank you for you never giving up, you always persevering, and somehow over a decade of using that, you got through that. And I see your mom and dad all the time, and I thank them, because the thousands of people who you impact now truly is a testament to your hard work, perseverance, and you make us better. You make the world better, man. TD. So I didn't want to go. I didn't want to brush over that.
No, totally. And I want to share one part of that story that's, I think, important, because a lot of people don't know this part of my recovery. You know, obviously being the individual going through it, I was the one fighting the battle the whole time. Also, from as early as they knew about it, literally, I remember in college at one point sitting down with my parents and saying, "Mom, Dad, I think I am addicted to drugs." You know, it was such a hard thing for my parents to even understand or wrap their minds around. You know, it's like, and to flip this, like, picture Luke. This is making it so you can understand a perspective of my parents. Picture Luke right now.
Yep.
Junior in high school. It was right when I and I was Luke in a different town, in a different you know setting. I mean, obviously different personalities and whatnot, but that's who I was. I was the oldest of three. Family, you know, tons of community around my family, sports. Sister was a soccer player, wrestlers. Now Luke starts, you know, veering off, and then you enter this season of your life where you are just at a loss, trying to do whatever you can to save your child. My mom and my sister, so my parents started the battle against, you know, joined me in this battle. My mom and dad did everything. Multiple trips to rehab, you know, paying, I don't care, like this facility and wherever, you know, paying out of pocket tens of thousands of dollars trying to, you know, help me with my problem. Battled that for several years with my parents. And then I meet Sam, my wife. She was my sister's best friend in college. She's experienced through her childhood similar stuff that I went through, not herself, but with family members. She joined the battle. And it was like I had my family. I had Sam fighting me. And then I moved to San Diego and I found Fitness Quest 10. Now, I was like, now I had like this whole army, like family, Sam, Fitness Quest 10. So it's like I'm coming in the right direction. I got a job here at Fitness Quest 10. I worked for a year. And then my wife got into Columbia for her grad program in New York, and we decided I was 1 year sober at the time. She was going to go back to New York and get her master's in social work, and I was going to stay here and continue working at Fitness Quest 10 and live with roommates in the condo here in Scripps Ranch. 1 month after she left, I relapsed. You know, I was an employee in Fitness Quest, and I've been here for 8 years. I've been sober for 7. So 1 year as an employee. I look back at that time, you know, it was like I had a taste of sobriety and, you know, the beginning of a career and, you know, but it's like when you're battling that lifestyle for so long, it's, you know, you're getting out and like I said before, the mind's a powerful thing. It can be super strong, can be weak and can justify, So I relapsed. I used for 6 months with nobody knowing in my community here or family. And then I remember Sam came home for the holidays and found me, caught me using. And, you know, I remember she called you. She called Julie, I think. It was 2013 or whatever it was, and told you guys, you know, I know you guys had known about my background and my past. And so, you know, it wasn't like I just got a job at Fitness Quest 10 and everything's all good and now I'm like working in the health and fitness community. No, I was still battling that.
Sure.
I used for 6 months as an employee here, you know, and hit it and, you know, and just like you as a boss, you know, I know that the human inside of you, you're trying to like going, okay, well, what do I do now? I got this kid who I know he's got a lot of potential, but he's using drugs. Like, do I fire him or, you know? And I remember sitting down with you at that time and, you know, signing a contract, behavior contract it was. Oh, and then the funny but not so funny thing, that was not the first behavior contract I signed. I think I did it one with my high school wrestling coach, college wrestling coach, all these people, these coaches, mentors in my life that were like, shoot, what do we do with this guy? Like, he's a great guy, like hard worker, but how can we, you know? And I remember it was at that time you guys said, you know, Jeff, you need to get right. Don't worry about your job here. Go home, go get some help. And that was the last time I went to rehab. It was February 9th, 2013, and I've been February 10th is my sobriety date, and that was. But you know, a lot of people when they meet me here, they don't know about that.
Right.
For, you know, they don't know that I was an employee here, and then I relapsed during my tenure here. Took 3 months off and went to rehab and came back and.
Yep.
Thank
Look
God.
at you now.
Whew.
Look at you
I
now,
got
man.
Goosebumps retelling that story.
Oh, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. So you go from answering a Craigslist,
Yes.
getting a director of first impressions job,
Yeah.
and you work that, and then you know after you get back from rehab and you're getting it right, you say, "Hey Todd, I want to start training." I'm like, "Jeff, you don't even have a certification yet. You've never trained anyone in your life, but I think you could be a heck of a trainer." On that, so you go through the whole certification process, and you intern with us while working the front desk, and you soon become our busiest trainer. And you're out there. It seemed like 90 hours a week, training people 7 days a week,
Yep.
and you were hustling, literally hustling. You talk about being a mayor of the town. You're working every sandwich shop, restaurant.
Yep.
Everyone knows Jeff Bristol, and I got a smile on the inside as I see you getting to really know, and I see you thriving in that role. And you know you sustained that for several years. I want to talk about now. You know, you get the assistant GM with Julie Wilcox, and then this earlier here, 2019. You know, we shift. Julie goes into TDE. You go in and take the helm at FQ10. Starting at director of first impressions, you grow to trainer, you grow to a thriving trainer, you go to assistant GM, and then you go to GM. What are some of the things that you enjoy most about the job now as a leader, not just as a coach and trainer, but as a leader of our organization, and me putting a lot of trust in you after so many years of doing great things? What are some of the favorite things that you do now at Fitness Quest 10?
Well, I think it starts with just being a leader, being in a position of leadership. You know, I've always, you know, whether it was in school or sports, I've always enjoyed and valued that relationship that I have with others or within an organization or a team or whatever. I was always like team captain or whatnot, you know, like I enjoy being in a position of leadership. And that has to do with the people. I love the people here at Fitness Quest 10, starting with the staff. These are, you know, men, women that I've been in the trenches working and training with, or that I've worked with for a long time or a short time, but I truly value the relationships that I have with my colleagues, and I have from day one. It's like a family here, you know, and so I enjoy the relationships I have not only with the staff but also the clients. I'm somebody that I'm definitely a people person.
Off the
Put
charts.
it lightly. And, you know, I love just going around, shaking hands, catching up, and building relationships with people in our community. All the clients that we have, from the kids to the working moms and dads to the professional athletes and everywhere in between. And, you know, I think that's something that keeps me going. And what I love to do is, you know, come in here and make my rounds, and so I love that aspect of the job, is just dealing with people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I remember when you took the job as GM, one of the things we talked about, one of the hardest things that you're going to have to do is learn how to make sure you're loving everybody. But as a leader, you also now have to delineate sometimes. You know, you're going from everyone's friend. Not that you can't be friendly with everyone.
Totally.
But you now have to lead people, which means setting expectations and giving feedback. Sometimes it's not always positive, right? There's times when someone's not doing the right thing, or it's not in line with our core values and what we stand for at Fitness Quest 10. When you hear leadership, how do you envision, what's leadership to you?
Setting the tone, you know, setting the example, and, you know, leading from within. And I think that's something that's helped me in my leadership role here, is that I have, I've worked the desk as a director of first impression, done every open, close shift, and, and I also worked a trainer. So I understand the aspects of the different positions within our organization.
Right.
So I think that helps me understand, give feedback, know like what is expected, the standard, like how, so that has definitely helped me. And being a leader is somebody that's, like I like to say, like leading from within, not from above. You know, like I like being here at 5 when whoever the opener is here, and I'm greeting them when they come in, whoever's opening up kind of thing. And, so I think that's helped me in fact that it is difficult or challenging sometimes, where, a lot of my colleagues, my coworkers here, they're my friends. Mm-hmm. I've been friends with them for a long time, as long as I've been working with them, a lot of them. And so setting that, they know that, I'm working hard, and, so I think I have that respect and, that mutual respect with my colleagues.
So let's talk about as a leader now.
Mm-hmm.
What's the toughest thing you do as a leader now at Fitness Quest 10? You've tasted it now for several months, many months, almost a year. What's the toughest thing you do as a leader?
Probably knowing that you can't make everybody happy. I literally just came from a conversation right before this that had to do with that. And then whether it's clients or staff, and, sometimes the tough conversations that go along with different, day-to-day work struggles, personal struggles, whatever it is going on with, when you have 40-plus personalities and, I think it's just, setting boundaries, and it's a work in progress for me. I've learned a lot over the last year, and knowing that, like, hey, you don't need to be liked by everyone all the time. You can't, and be a good leader, or be you can't, it's not possible. And I really tried to do that for a while, but no, I'm being okay that, like, hey, this is actually better for them than me being just nice. Yeah.
I've always said in business, I think the best part's always about the people, and the toughest part's always about the people.
Yeah,
right. Like it's always true, the best. Yeah. It's always about the people, and we're dealing with human beings in anything, whether it be clients, members, customers, regardless of your career occupation. I think that's one thing in 20 plus years in my career is what drives me nuts is when I have expectations higher for people than they have for themselves.
Yeah.
When and someone that I know demand excellence and always want the best for us and our business and what we do, what we stand for. When I see potential in somebody, whether it be a client that's coming in as an athlete or someone that really wants to make change in their life, and they're telling me that, but then their actions aren't matching up, that drives me nuts as a coach and as a leader. When someone's saying, hey, I want to achieve a certain level of financial success, yet they want to only work certain hours of the day. I'm like, listen, that doesn't add up. Your actions for what you want and what you need to do, it's not realistic, right? So this is the part from a leadership perspective, and some of you are smiling right now. I can see you as you're listening, those of you who are leaders, because here's the bottom line. I believe everyone's a leader. I believe when you were at the director of first impressions at the front desk, you're leading. I believe our trainers, Pilates instructors, massage therapists, our whole admin staff, everyone's a leader because everyone affects our culture.
Right.
And you know it as well as anyone here is I take a lot of pride in our culture and setting the tone. And I believe everyone who's on our team, anyone on an organization affects that. So everyone's a leader and everyone affects that. So that comes down to how are you contributing to the success of the organization? You're either adding to it or you're not. You're either adding to our positivity and our culture and our enthusiasm or you're not. And if you're cancerous, then that's a problem. I think of Jack Welch, book Winning. And Jack Welch talks about, hey, in any organization, regardless how big or small, there's always 70% of the people are in the middle. There's 20% that are thriving. Those are your thoroughbreds, and they're thriving. And the other 10% are the bottom of the barrel, and you got to cut them. These are the people that you constantly put all your time, energy into, yet they're not going to change. But we're afraid typically to cut those people. And as a leader now yourself, no one, you haven't had to fire a lot of people yet. Thank goodness. No one likes firing people. But bottom line is, when it comes to an organization, is when you're evolving and you're getting better, that sometimes means change. And change isn't always popular.
Right.
And I believe great leaders have the gut, have the wherewithal to trust their intuition of what do you need to do, because we're constantly evaluating the success of an organization. Look at a great GM of a ball team, of an NFL team, Major League Baseball team, a great successful company. A GM is always evaluating who's playing on my team. Right. Are they the right players? Is it time for a trade? You got to cut somebody, right? So I liken it when I look at, the Bell Belichicks of the world, a head coach, some of the GMs in the league. Not that I'm a huge Patriots fan, all you Patriot fans out there, but I have a ton of respect for what they do year in and year out. On that, it's no different here at Fitness Quest 10 or any organization that is a leader, in their occupation of, man, leadership's tough, and it's a daily thing. It's not like, hey, we can rely on the success of the last 19 and a half years. No, it's where are you at now?
Yeah.
What are we doing now to create, continue to innovate and be great? And Jeff, you've had a great hand in the last year in your ascent over 8 years of your career at Fitness Quest 10 and making us better, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, TD.
Really,
learning a lot every day, man. It's definitely always room for improvement.
Well, you're doing an awesome job. I talk about the sanctuary all the time. Fitness Quest 10 is the sanctuary. Everyone out there thinks it's perfect here all the time. It's like Disneyland, right? It's perfect. Just share if there's one thing that frustrates you the most about, man, if you could change one thing about what we do so people know, hey, like, it's not perfect. Like, there's no perfect business out there. What would be one thing that you'd like to share? Like, man, this drives me nuts. Like, if I could do this to change, whether it be team, culture, business, is there something like, man, here's my drive over the next year, I would love to take Fitness Quest to another level. What is it?
Well, first of all, I want to touch on just the operations of a facility, because I understand all those small business owners are out there, the challenges that nobody ever thinks about as an employee or a client or anything. Other business owners relate, but a lot of times it's like so much of when you're in a small business and you wear multiple hats, including operations and facilities, and it's like every day multiple things come, spent 2 weeks trying to figure out this motor on the massage table. Like, that is not where I want to spend my time, but it needs to be done.
That's right.
And now it's like, so we can't find the part, so we have to buy a new table, which is several $1,000s, and expenses this month because the AC broke. Also, internet. Don't get me started. Like, this is
no, keep going. This is good. This is real talk now. This is real talk.
I've been dealing with the internet phone situation for like over 6 months. So how much time and energy goes to that? And I'm like,
I gotta apologize.
I just want to go.
I gotta apologize publicly for just being on your back. Jeff, I need the email
TV's
to work.
coming down, breathing down my neck, going, my emails aren't going out. I'm like, oh my God, AT&T, try and call them. I'm like talking to India. I'm going, help me out, please. Anyway. So just the operations of a facility.
This is real talk,
and I know
guys.
Everybody that is a small business owner out there goes through it. The expenses every month, just like the time it takes, because it's like, as a multi-hat wearing small business owner, GM, or whoever, I've seen a good back end view into being the struggles, the day-to-day, month-to-month struggles or fight it is.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people listening, and if you're a non-trainer coach and you work for an organization or you work in another industry and you're a solopreneur, sometimes you're doing everything.
Right.
Like, we have roles. Like, for many years, I didn't have a GM. I was training. I was doing the marketing.
Right.
I was doing everything. And that's, by the way, it doesn't get easier as you get along, but you get smarter and more efficient so that you could set up some systems as we're talking about. Because I think one thing that we've talked about is, Jeff, we've got to sweat the details. The attention to details on the little things matter. And it's those things that if you take your eyes off the details, you get sloppy, you get complacent. And the most dangerous thing to success is success. So when you get successful, you get, you can get real kind of comfy, a little lazy, little complacent. And that's your most dangerous time is when you've hit success or you get this accolade because you want to take the foot off the accelerator. My friends out there listening today, don't take the foot off your accelerator. If you got some success, you got to systemize and structure your day, your life, and your business so that, yes, you take time off, that you can get your mellow yellow time and blue sky time to strategize about where you're going in the future. Hence why we always talk about in my annual roadmap, in the mastermind, in our mentorships, we're always talking about, guys, work on yourself and work on your business so that you can actually execute and take action on the things that you need to do to make sure you get to where you want. And regardless of your role in the team, that you have people on the team, not your team, the team, right? Who owns this business? Not me, not Jeff. The clients and members own our business, because if there's no clients and no members, then we don't have a business.
Right.
So remember, they're in charge. We tap into them and listen to them. They're the ones who help dictate to where the heck we're going, and you strategize about how can we serve our people more. Hey, I want to make more money. Good, then figure out a way to how to serve more people.
Yeah.
Right? You want to make more money, we got to serve more people. It's not, hey, you give out pay raises. It's, hey, we got to serve more people in our community, in our town, in our city, in our province, in our country, in this world. Like, how do you serve more people? And that's more impact.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. Jeff, lastly, if there's a mom or a dad, heck, if there's anyone, a brother or a sister today, who has someone in their life who is struggling or they are struggling, could you give any final advice in your journey? Because you've come, from an All-American wrestler, your high school standout, Division I college wrestler. You've worked with world-class athletes, MMA champions, moms, dads, kids, grandmas, grandpas. And for you, it doesn't matter if they're holding a belt around their waist for a championship, or it's someone who's struggling with depression, they're using drugs, and you're trying to save them. Any advice out there today to our great listeners about what they could do to get through the tough times?
I know that for me, the two biggest things that, helped me get clean and sober was finding a community and working out. And I get both of that right here, and you always talk about it. Training hard, eating right, living inspired. It's so hard as a parent or a loved one of somebody that's going through tough stuff like addiction. How do I help them? So many parents out there are trying to help their kids so much that they're enabling them. And it's also like, it's like there is no one right answer to how do you provide the right amount of help, love, tough love, boundaries. Like when this is like, I can't, there's so much of that. And so, first of all, for any parent out there, never give up hope. Never give up hope. I know there was, my wife, my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother. I know there was times they were talking about, what are we going to do when we get the call? What are we going to have a funeral? But my parents, they fought. Sam, she fought. My sister paid for me to go to rehab the 5th time or whatever it was when my parents didn't have any more money for me to go. So, love them, support them, get them surrounded by people, whether it's through a rehab or church or a gym, or get them working out. That always was something that I could, luckily, I had a foundation of that. I knew what it was. I know what it felt like to train and feel strong and feel good. And I knew the endorphins that you get from working out. So I was always like, I would go into rehab or jail withdrawing from heroin. The worst physical feeling you can have. It's like the worst flu you ever had times 10, and so weak, and I knew that as soon as and that was another thing, I couldn't ever stop unless I went to a place like a rehab or jail where I was physically confined. And the power of choice was taken away from me. But I knew that as soon as I started moving, I would go to the gym. I went to a rehab in Riverside twice, 10-acre ranch, over a 3-year period or something. They would take us in a van to the local gym there. I knew after a week, I would spend 3-4 days in bed withdrawing. As soon as I could muster up the energy, I would get out of bed and go to the gym with the van. I remember what it felt like trying to work out that first time. But the mind, the body, your soul is so powerful. I remember getting, stronger and feeling better physically, mentally, emotionally, just by working out. And that's something that I always did when I would, I had a lot of ups and downs. But whenever I was in rehab or jail, as soon as I have a couple weeks of sobriety, as soon as I started getting sober, I'd start working out, feeling better. And so mine's been a combination of surrounding myself with the right people, working out, and staying grateful.
Man, I got goosebumps. Out there, and I thank you for sharing that. Part of the reason why I wanted you to come on the podcast today was just to make sure that it wasn't just our Fitness Quest 10 community that gets to experience you, but the entire world gets to see the impact that you create every day, and to share your story is a blessing. I got goosebumps when you say, you work out, because obviously there's a chemical reaction that happens when we work out. So whether you're working out right now as you listen, congratulations. If you're not, make sure it's part of your lifestyle. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, all these things that are released on a daily basis. You talk about get your mind right. Get your mind right. You got to work out. Talked about going to church. Find the synagogue, the temple, the church that fits you. Find a community and a support system that fits you on that, because you got to get in touch with that spirit, right? That you're constantly battling, that the mind and the body and the spirit, all those things on that. And Jeff, I just want to thank you for being the man you are and making so many people better on that. I'll end with this question. What's your legacy all about?
Family first. I got a 2.5-year-old son at home. So between my son, my wife, my parents, I just bought a house this past couple months, and my parents are moving in with us. Reverse 10 years ago, my parents were selling their house because of all the financial stress they were going through with me and in my darkest times. You know what? I said to my mom, why don't you quit your job, move in with Sam and I, and what I want to do is be able to provide. Number one, my son will never see me drunk or high. I want to provide the life that my wife and I and my family want. I want to be able to be there as the rock for my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister that I was always meant to be. As opposed to sucking from their life, I want to pour into their life and then use this platform here at Fitness Quest 10 and elsewhere to change lives. And I thank you, Todd, for giving me an opportunity, giving me a second opportunity when I stumbled. And this platform here at Fitness Quest 10 has given me that, has helped me fulfill a purpose where I know that I'm making a difference And when you're making a difference in people's lives, nothing beats that.
Wow. You can see why I love him, guys, right? You see the soul? Jeff, thank you for the man that you are, the husband that you are, the father that you are, the trainer, coach to so many people. And, we talk every single day. We're rubbing elbows every day. And I'm so glad that today we can share on the podcast you with everyone. If someone wants to reach out to you and contact you, what's the best place they can do that?
Instagram, Facebook, email, phone. I don't care. You call me at
Walk
2
into
in the
Fitness
morning,
Quest.
walk in here. You can come stay at my house. Well, hold on. Let me check with my wife. No, but seriously, I love being, so many people were there for me for so many years. Family, friends, coaches, community. I had a village of people fighting for me forever. And I know that it's my turn to pay it forward. And, sometimes after a long day of work or something, I'm going home and I know that I was supposed to call that one person back because they might be going through something or whatever. It's
right.
That's my duty. I owe it. No, I'm not driven by guilt.
Yep.
For a while there, it was like, felt so guilty and remorseful. And now it's more of a responsibility.
Guys, follow him. It's at Bristol Fit. Follow him at Bristol Fit. Come into Fitness Quest 10. Say hello on that. He's always around. Jeff, thank you so much for what you do. We talk about live a life worth telling a story about what's your story. You've just heard Jeff's story, right? And we talk about passion, purpose, and impact. Jeff's fired up. He's a passionate guy who's living his deepest divine purpose. And, of course, he's creating a lot of impact. Wherever you are, wherever you come from, whether the depths of despair, you're at a high or a low of lows, know that you have a community here, right here on the Impact Podcast at Fitness Quest 10 and other fire-breathing dragons worldwide who could help support you on that. And, hey, if you love today's episode, having Jeff, please do us a favor. Make sure you comment, you write a review, you subscribe to this podcast. We love reviews. And Jeff would love to go back and hear, what he had to say about, hey, I love the Bristol episode on that stuff. So if you love that, please do us a favor and make sure you spread the love. Share this episode with other people who you believe can get some impact from that. Jeff, thank you so much for being here, brother.
Love you, brother.
Love you too.
Awesome.